Well, my name is Bill Styring. I have a PhD in economics. I've had my nose rubbed into the property tax in any variety of ways. I spent 5 years as the chief of staff for the Indiana House Ways and Means Committee, 5 years working for Governor Bowen. I think it's fair to say I was the principal architect of his 1973 property tax relief package. I spent 13 years as the tax lobbyist for the State Chamber of Commerce. Studied Indiana state and local fiscal policy from the Hudson Institute, where I was a senior fellow. All that is not to say that I'm great and wonderful. Just ask my wife; she knows better. Okay. The main problem is it exists. We have an incredibly long history in this state of attempting to raise one set of non-property taxes with the promise that the taxpayers will get property tax relief. History has proved time and time again that's like pruning back a weed. It just grows back faster. In very short order, you're stuck with all the new taxes that have been raised with the promise of property tax relief. Plus the property tax is right back where it was, headed higher. The first attempt at that, in my experience, was 1933. If you go back to the morgue of the Indianapolis Star, or we had two evening newspapers at that time, the Times and the News, we imposed a brand new corporate gross income tax and a brand new individual gross income tax, with the political leadership promising, don't worry about it, you're going to get property tax relief. Well, it didn't happen. You go back to 63. 1963, we instituted a brand new sales tax at a rate of 2%, and we took this individual gross income tax that was imposed in 1933 under the guise of providing property tax relief and laundered that into what is now the current Indiana individual adjusted gross income tax at a rate of 2%. The promise being, don't worry about it, you'll get property tax relief. Didn't happen. In 1967, this new sales tax and this new individual adjusted gross income tax that was imposed in 1963, those two were dragging in more money than had been anticipated. So the General Assembly passed what they called the 8-8 plan. They took 8% of the revenue from each of those two taxes, gave it back to local civil government, and hoping that this would give property tax relief. Well, it didn't happen. They spent the money. Okay, another trap and a delusion. Well, along came 1973. Governor Bowen, Otis Bowen, Doc Bowen, was elected on a platform of substantial, visible, and lasting property tax relief. And it happened, I was the guy with the numbers. And at that point, I was 28 years old. Therefore, I thought I was very, very smart. And Doc Bowen passed his famous 1973 property tax replacement plan. He doubled the sales tax from 2% to 4%, imposed a brand new corporate income tax, and to his credit, as long as he was governor, property taxes did go down, and they stayed down. Now, the problem was Doc Bowen could only run for 2 terms. And by 1987, property taxes were right back where they were in inflation-adjusted terms, right back where they were in 1973. Plus, we were stuck with a doubled sales tax and a corporate supplemental net income tax. And if Doc Bowen couldn't pull off substantial, visible, and lasting property tax relief, I don't believe any mortal politician can. Doc had 2 of the 3 right. He got substantial and visible. The problem was it wasn't lasting. And then the 02 session of the General Assembly, we had another penny on the sales tax with some vague rumblings about getting property tax relief. I sure didn't see any property tax relief. So how many times do we have to kick ourselves in the teeth before we figure out that any plan raising non-property taxes in the vague hope of providing property tax relief, it won't work? The only thing you can do with a property tax is completely get rid of it. Rip it up by the roots. Otherwise, it'll just grow back again. I know where everybody's going to be a loser. That's if we once again fall for one of these schemes of let's raise these non-property taxes with a vague promise of property tax relief. We have proved time and time again that the taxpayers all lose in that scenario. Well, the question is there a constitutional basis? Well, let me say a couple of things. Number one, you've got a great attorney in John Price. If anybody can win that case, he can. If you go back to my earlier description of how we value property, well, my answer is, I don't know what this is, but it's not market value. I don't know what it is. The Indiana, if you really want to get back to the basics, the Indiana Constitution, under the current property tax, says that all property must be uniformly assessed. Huh? I don't know what we have. So, yeah, I don't know in what court that case was filed, but I got a pretty sneaking good suspicion if it ever wound up in front of Judge Tom Fisher in the Indiana Tax Court, he would say, "Right on, bro." Let's get this. This isn't what I meant when I said market value.